Hey guys, just wanted to do another lesson today on some interesting stuff you can do if you're trying to learn how to solo, in that particular case in kind of a blues fashion. There's a lot of techniques that you do with your left hand that kind of spice things up and make things sound more interesting. So the main thing is, when you're first learning about scales, for example, you may have learned, a pentatonic scale. Or you may have learned, a diatonic scale. And then you're in a band situation where your buddies say, hey, listen, man, you should take a solo during this section, during the bridge, during the chorus, during so on and so forth. So what I see a lot of people doing when they're first starting is, they know the notes in the scale. They'll, they'll play it, But the thing about it is, what really makes the signature sound isn't necessarily playing the notes in the scale. What it is all these like small techniques that you do to lead into notes, to lead out of notes, to put a little vibrato on it, and do bends and that sort of thing. That's what really makes soloing sound interesting, depending on the style. Depending on the style. If you're playing something more diatonic, that's not jazzy or not bluesy, then maybe it's not necessarily as characteristic of the style. But definitely in jazz and blues, we use a lot of these little small techniques to kind of make things more interesting. So, what are they? After you learn your scale patterns on the guitar, we've got bends, hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, and vibrato. Okay. The first thing is a bend. So let's suppose you're playing an A minor pentatonic, which is here. I mean, I had the blue note, but yeah. So if you're playing that, what a bend is what you're going to do is you're going to take your finger and you're going to fret a note. Say, for example, on the 7th fret here, which would be a D. Okay. And you're going to take it and then play it with your right hand, okay? And on your left hand, this is where the technique comes in. You're going to bend it after you play it up of an entire step, okay? So for example, take this, and then one step above is going to be this note here, which is an E. So D to E is one step. You're going to take the note, play it, and then you're going to bend the string up. Okay, and that gives you your bend, and you have to practice it and really hold it and control it, so you could really control it, the bend, and really make it a good sound. If you go up and then you do this, it's not very strong. You got to go. It takes practice, and then you get a good control over it. Make sure it's nice, an even bend, and a strong bend, and exactly one full step. You can even bend downwards, see? Okay, so that's a bend. You can also bend a half step up. Say if I'm playing this B here, which is on the 4th string, the 3rd string, the 4th fret, and you want to bend it up to this note, a C. Okay, you could bend. Again, have good control. Okay, so that's a bend. The next technique is a hammer-on. Hammer-on is when you take your initial note. Let's say we're playing this note here, which is on the 5th fret, okay, of the 3rd string, which would be a C, and I want to hammer on to this D here. So what I do is I play the first note, and then I'm going to put my next 3rd finger on the next note, okay, all while holding it down. So you're going to do that. Okay, and you could also hammer on between any of the notes in the scale. For example, if you start on the next 2 notes higher in the scale, you have this E here, and you want to hammer up to a G. Okay, you could do that. Okay, so that's kind of an interesting sound too. The reverse of a hammer-on is going to be a pull-off. You start on the high note. You're actually kind of fretting both notes. This, for example, here, you're going to be fretting both the D and the C, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to start off on the high note, which is in this case the 7th fret, and you're going to pull off to the 5th fret, which is here, okay? But you're not going to strike them both like that. You'll do it like this. Okay? And if you put them together, hammer on followed by pull off, you end up with, you know, kind of a trill. You really got to grip the neck, you know, very firmly to be able to do these techniques and to really build up your dexterity. Your fingers, of course, are going to start getting cut up, but after a while you get the calluses and you get used to them. Okay, so you got hammer-ons, you got pull-offs. And again, you could do them all over the place. You know, and you mix all these techniques in to perform your licks. Okay, the last technique is a vibrato, which is really kind of an interesting technique. What you're doing here is you're taking a note, again, say this note right here, and what you're doing is you're kind of just moving your finger back and forth like this, okay? Now what it does is it adds a little bit of tension to the string and then lets go of the tension in a really fast way. You could also kind of perform a vibrato by bending it upward too. Okay, it really depends. Just really dig in there like that and just kind of hold your finger in and kind of pivot it along the fretboard to kind of get that kind of motion. And then again, practice it and get your technique. So like for example, you know, I could do. You know, you see that I'm mixing techniques. Sometimes I'm hammering on, sometimes I'm pulling off, sometimes I'm doing a trill, sometimes I'm, you know, sweep picking or doing other right hand technique stuff. Sometimes I'm putting a vibrato in there. So if you notice, okay, if I take a lick, for example, if I take this, which is this transcribed lick down here, start on the 7, bend it up, okay, and then do the 5, okay, and then take the 8. That sounds pretty interesting. Okay, it sounds very bluesy, especially if you put a little vibrato on it. If you didn't play with any of these techniques, it would sound like this. It doesn't sound bluesy at all, right? It sounds kind of, it's boring. It's not characteristic of a blues sound or, you know, that kind of thing. So if you want to spice up your solos, you really got to use these techniques, okay? And break apart your favorite, you know, rock and blues guitarist solos, you know. Check out transcriptions online. You know, learn Jimmy Page's solos. Learn Stevie Ray Vaughan's solos. You know, if you're interested, you know, when I would record Oasis songs and on an old tape deck player and play those notes over and over again. And at the time when I was young, it probably didn't make sense, but you know, I was building up the hand chops to be able to do these techniques. So with these techniques, these are the basic building blocks to be able to do solos. The rest is experimentation. Play them at different parts in progressions when you're jamming with your buddies. And the next thing you know, you'll be getting it down like no problem, and just take it just takes experience and time. But these are the basic building blocks, and maybe next time we'll go over some more licks to kind of give you some ideas of what to do in a blues or a jazz or a rock setting. Okay guys, I'll see you next time, and take it easy and always practice, and I'll see you guys soon.